Shalom, family. Glory be to God, and blessed be the Lamb. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King. Hats off. Heads bowed. Hats off, heads bowed. It's funny that, though, I had a different take of the man in my earlier years. I had to take several attempts at self-correction and outside correction to understand Dr. King. You see, as with any unknown quantity, I have to know what the unknown quantity is. So I went to digging. Not superficially. I knew Dr. King. I knew the story and the background, a couple of his speeches, his agenda, and what it meant, and who he was fighting for. But we ran into a couple of roadblocks. Roadblock one, his father. His father. I didn't stop looking at Dr. King, at the image and man of Dr. King as he stood. No, I looked at what he also came from, what he really believed, what he was taught as a lad, a young boy, so to speak. So I dug into his father's past. I dug into his father's past. And that's when I seen it. One of the things, but things look differently over time. You can look at a photograph in 1975 and look at the same photograph 15 years later, and it hits different. It's not the same photograph exactly, except in terms of imagery, which hits different on a psychological level. At any rate, I dug into his father's past. His father was enamored for some reason with a man by the name and by the name of Martin Luther. Martin Luther, and wouldn't it be ironic? I just happened to be in Europe at the time I was digging through all of this, and I was caught up in this traffic circle, and I remember looking over to my right, and there was this street, and it said Martin Luther without the King. Oh, the irony. So there I am digging, and I seen the connective tissue between the father and this theologian and and European German reformist Martin Luther. I seen it, and from there, Martin Luther King Jr. would become saddled with the father's, for lack of a better word, debt. Not only in my eyes was he understanding and accepting Western thought, which is foreign to his black brain. He named his son after this theologian, staining both him and his son's legacy in my eyes forever. Now, this was back in I arrived at this conclusion in I want to say 94. No, 94 was a bad year for me. Let's call it 96 or 97. Okay. I so condemned Mr. King through the father that the photograph that I had framed in my freaking apartment, I hung it upside down. I took it off the wall and put it back on the wall upside down. And it will remain there it would be a long time before I bumped into someone who showed me the other side of Dr. King. And I realized that I had saddled the son, the son with the father's legacy. Problem number two. How shall we get there? Gently. I don't do organizations. I consider certain organizations principalities. The larger the organization, the larger the membership. You toss in secret understandings, secret oaths. You are thereby a spiritual principality. And there was Dr. King again. Again. Now, I want you to understand something. This is not a condemnation of Dr. King. This is me watching a man in spiritual growth and intellectual growth. Okay? Spiritual and intellectual growth. I had not taken into account the vast surveillance he was under. I hadn't taken into account the psychological operations that he had to have been under, or the pressure from the government, or the pressure. Someone presented me with information that it is what it is. However, I did not consider the source. I trusted the source of the information. It didn't come from me. But again, we can't all, later I would learn that you can't believe everything, even when it's written, stamped, or sealed. Not anymore. Not when it comes to what's going on and what has been going on in this country. At any rate, I had saddled Mr. King with both of them. So now I had to get him out of it. Like everything else, I have to justify everything I do. You've never heard me honor any man, ever. And I won't today. However, there are men who are different than other men. They change things, move things, alter things. These men are rare and short-lived. I found it ironic that at that moment in history, under the leadership of Mr. Hoover, was it, that he was searching to get rid of a Messiah. Black people could never have a Messiah. These people really believe in the Bible more than I thought. A Messiah. How did you even get that in your white mind? A Messiah. So you really did know. Wow. Anyway, stop playing. Stop playing. You did know, as you know now. As you know now. And it was nothing more than a spiritual continuation of a murderous rampage by the devil in a futile attempt to stop the inevitable. Who lives line by line what is written? I don't even do that. I like wiggle room. I mean, and God, anyway, but you're not me. Who does that? Well, these guys, all the way up to killing people. See a leader that can unite the people, and he's a dead man. Every now and then it's a dead woman. Every now and then. And there you are. Problem solved. Over and over and over and over. But this is about Dr. Martin Luther King. Today is his birthday, and he lost his life in April of 1968. I think that would put me at about 4.5 or 5 years old. And you know how strong how strong his legacy was. They had kids in every church, and the black community had a whole bunch of churches reciting the entire I Have a Dream speech by memory sometimes, not all the time, but by memory. It was that ingrained in the black psyche, his name, what he had done. So I had to go back to what had he done? What had he done? We've already talked about the macro or micro look at his history. And trust me, I only gave you the surface look. I looked. When I background you, I look. As I'm going into your father, it's about bloodlines here. I'm going into your high school records and disciplinary records. I want to know who you are. Who you are. And I'll find out. I'll put it together. Okay? But every now and then, there's a hiccup. See, back in those days, I lived by very rigid rules. People, such as people don't change. They just hide themselves better. I really believe that. They don't change. They hide themselves better. I had never seen true change. And then I seen it. So out of the window that went. It was a part of a bad perimeter. But in terms of thinking. But back to Mr. King. What did he do? Well, he moved the people mentally and emotionally, psychologically, and not just black people. I mean, he led black people. But that's not what I haven't gotten to the leadership part of it. No, he moved the people psychologically, politically, sociologically, ideologically. He moved people from a certain point in time to a next point in time. And Mr. King, Dr. King, and with all due reverence, had understood that he would die. He understood this. And he did it anyway. There has to be something said about that when I mean, the honor of that. A man who won't stand down in the face of obvious threat. There's something to be said about such a man. It really is. It's like trying to understand the battle horses of old. These weren't, I mean, God loves them. I mean, he says that they start at the sound of battle, at the sight of it, when they start lining up, these horses are already stomping their feet. They've been armored up, helmeted up, rider is on them, and they're blowing smoke out of their nose. What he's saying, it's a cold morning. Mist, smoke comes out of their nose as they flare their nostrils, and they beat the ground with their hooves. Have you ever seen a horse in battle? That's what God would say. Have you ever seen a horse in battle? Wow. So, Mr. King understood that he would die. But he had also lived, and he had moved a people, the American people. I hadn't quite arrived at the leadership of Mr. King yet, because I hadn't, I belatedly and only grudgingly gave him respect. And I had the right side up his picture, both on the wall and in my mind. I had saddled Mr. King with too much baggage. He was being held responsible for thoughts and deeds and actions of the things within his proximity, which he grew up with. In other words, he had to work with what he had. He made the choices he made within the timelines and the options of that time. Okay, I mean, it's ironic that both him and Malcolm X ended up dead for the same reason, which brings me to my next point. I'm more of a in your face kind of guy. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it. Why wait? I mean, we already know what the situation is. Are you busy this morning? Maybe. That's me. But that's not for everyone. It can't be for everyone. No, it's only for the select. It's only for the select. It is a rare characteristic. So I had to see the fight in Dr. King. I had to look for the fight. Oh, don't get me wrong. I seen the marches. You know, I seen the sit-ins. I seen the stand-ins. I seen the protests. I seen the forcing of sitting at lunch counters, which I found ironic. I mean, you know, I'm a realist. Do I really want to sit down and eat ice cream with someone who really doesn't want me sitting down eating ice cream with them? I'm not going to make this guy love me. He's going to hate me more for me invading his personal space. The man said he wants to eat ice cream with people who look like him, meaning white people. I seen absolutely no issue with that. Why am I going to sit next to this man knowing that he resents me for sitting there? If he wants this all white water fountain, hey man, paint it bright white and make sure his signs say that's forever. Okay? Whatever he wants, give him. But that's me. And I'm just coming from a whole different level of thinking. Okay? So I can't saddle Dr. King with my level of thinking when he's but flesh and bone, mere mortal, spirit, soul that's guaranteed an expiration date. There's nothing you can do but honor that. And the mistakes that a Dr. King would make would be personal mistakes. Listen, Dr. King never acted like he was hunted. I act like I'm hunted. You see the difference? You see the difference. There's a different outcome, a different set of scenarios involved. Okay? But I seen the fight in Dr. King, and I seen the acceptance of his fate. He said himself, I won't get there with you. There meaning the mountaintop, the green pasture, the land that you deserve, and the money. Yes, they don't want to. He did say, we're coming to get the check. Dr. Martin Luther King said that. Everyone wants to act as though he didn't say that. They only want you to say that I had a dream. And then you shot him. Oh, you shot him and you smothered him with a pillow out of the sight of prying eyes, with a group of other like-minded individuals standing around you, swearing to never let this out of this room. Wow. Anyway, that's how things are in La La Land. And you didn't stop anything, because the reality of the situation is, wherever Mr. King moved them to, they never left. They may not have moved forward, but they never left. He left them standing in the green pasture that turned browner and browner. I mean, in terms of neglect, lack of water, lack of resources, the ghettoization, the stabilization plans, centuries or decades of massacres and burning downs of whole towns, redlining and IE, etc., etc., etc. So he left his people there, and they're still here. But he did bring them from the plantation, sharecropping, that horrible version of slavery, the beatings. Now, right there is where I seen the fight. This is where I've seen the combination of the man that made the man the man. That's where I seen the fight. Mr. King led like a king. I could call him leader. Mr. King didn't send anyone anywhere. Mr. King led them to the fight. He had convinced them to understand that they might die that day. You will face water hoses. You will face the police. You will face the billy club. You will face dogs. You will face a nation of deputized white people, self-deputized and governmental deputized, and you could find yourself in situations that include everything from being hung, drugged behind vehicles, to sitting inside of jail cells and being beaten from the inside out, and then the mob snatch you out at the wee hours of the morning. He convinced them of that, and they accepted it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's leadership. That's leadership. And Mr. King wasn't at the back barking the calls. He was in the front leading the charge. Well, I had to close the book then. There's nothing I needed to know further of such a man and his growth and his understanding of life, his life, and what it meant. And as I thought further on a different level or realm spiritually, Mr. King whooped ass. I have to look at you, the man tied up the FBI and his resources and his politicians for years. Years. In other words, he had created a situation where they must deal with them. They have to deal with them. Not because they wanted to. No, they had to, at least in their heads, or they could have just done the right thing, which they have yet to do. They have this determination in the face of reality. And the history, which we have a shared history, meaning black people and white people, we have a shared history going back 500 years, give or take. Then turns out, as a last ditch effort, they will try to kill you and will kill you. And Mr. King, like others, many others before him, met the fate. So with Reverence, Mr. King, I long ago stopped hanging your picture upside down. Neither will I spend time pointing out or remarking, rather, on what I seen as shortcomings. Man is meant to be imperfect. I don't know how he even does it. I do and I don't, but it really is hard to meet the standard of God. It's hard. It's rough. It is a hard slog. You're going to lose everything, up to and including maybe your life. This is the reality of the situation in this world created by other men. By other men. Okay? Everything comes to a close now. Everything comes to a close. These are the facts, and there's no way out of them. Mr. King was a product of his experiences, educated, and you know how I feel about Western education, but let's be real. I mean, I've been Western educated too. I just kind of couch it in. I mean, listen, I'm over in Germany looking at Martin Luther. You can't get any more Western educated in the terms of thought process than that. You can't. You can't. And all of this started with me looking into Mr. King's background, and I went straight to the bloodline. Straight to the bloodline, because I understand what bloodlines mean. I didn't go into what the father did with his enamored enlightenment. But that has nothing to do with Mr. King. Mr. King was a child. A child. Year 1, year 5, year 8, year 10, year 12, all under the auspices of what should be his guardians, his parents. And we don't choose our parents. I'm just not saying anything about them reform-minded at all. Not even his father. After all, we have to understand the black man is different in this country than any other subset of this population. We've never been not under duress. We've never been not under attack, either politically, sociologically, legally. It's always been. It is our norm. This is the atmosphere that Dr. Martin Luther King grew up in. And so did his father. And that counts for a lot. So hats off, heads bowed to Dr. King. He's one of the few men that the black population, the slaves, can say actually died for them. One of the few. That's more than interesting. That's more than interesting. We can say, meaning you can say, he took a bullet for you by standing at the front line, leading the charge as the king. No pun intended, and the irony is obvious. And the source, I am 7, I am 1. Good day, Mr. King.